we go further with people when we trust them. And so why not use that aspect of relationship making, of getting work done with our grantees? It's almost a no-brainer. I think the difficult part is how do we make that work with the realities and the power dynamics that are there.
I think of it as an incredible gift that part of our jobs is to build relationships with community leaders and to listen and to find out what's really going on the ground.
How do you know what someone needs? How do you know what their desires are, their hopes, their aspirations, what they want to do without having a true relationship where it's based on trust and honesty, and both parties can be vulnerable in that and to really get to the next stage of what it is to support people.
Trust-based philanthropy is a wonderful thing. I think if we take a step back, we can call it relationship building. And that's truly what it is. It's showing up in a space and saying, tell me what you're working on. I'd love to hear what you're doing. It looks like you're doing great things. And that's really where it starts, is building those relationships.
It's not just about what you're doing, but it's actually about how you're being. And I think that's particularly important for people with power in philanthropy to understand. What we are doing is we are setting culture. And if we're not setting a culture of trust, if we're setting a culture that's much more about power hoarding and about micromanaging and really about ego, right? That trickles through everything.
I think for philanthropy to be effective at all, it has to be grounded in trust and in relationships. And what I've observed is this beautiful chain of trust and relationships in some of the work we've had a chance to do. And the trust-based philanthropy as a concept really codifies that and says, every decision you make, every policy you put into place has to start from a premise of deep respect and trust for the organizations you're in partnership with.
And the piece that I'm finding that is so important is, especially being on the board side and having worked at a family foundation, is that we need the board to show up and be vulnerable, show up in their full humanity as we're asking other folks to do, because it is hard as staff when this is your job and can I show up as my full self? You're not quite sure, but it really helps when there's some reciprocity between the board and staff and trying to build those relationships in the same way we want to build relationships with grantee partners in the community.
Where not many of us are good at is getting more proximate with our families. And in the same kind of patient, incremental way, getting a little bit closer to our brother, our dad, my nephew, whoever it might be, and hopefully in the context of shared experiences, we actually develop empathy for who they are too.
How do I ask what they need? You pick up the phone and have a conversation. You drive to community and say, I'd love to hear what you're doing. Can I volunteer? So having that opportunity to build authentic relationships, that's the cornerstone of that work.
I think also structurally, multi-year grants help to build those relationships. So every year we're not asking for another proposal and they're not selling us and we're not judging them. You take the selling and the judging out on an annual basis, and there is so much more room to relax, to breathe, and really just to be there with each other as people.
In terms of building authentic relationships, I feel like as I get to know a grantee partner or a leader more personally, somebody will say to me, Kathy, that's not a very good idea. And then I know, oh my gosh, we're really, we've hit another level.